Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Got Something For Ya. Today, I have Phil joining me, and we have Ollie, who might make an appearance a little bit later, hopefully before his segment, The Tribe, has posted. If you are here, let us know in the live chat. Thank you all so much for your patience. We got started a little bit late today. We needed to make the stream happen. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Matthew. I'm doing all right. I really am excited moving into the finale next week
Oh,
because of this episode. I feel like the dam is finally broken. I have gotten through where like someone from the strong four that is not David essentially self-eliminating by pissing everyone off, like got eliminated, and it feels like a mini move was made. I mean, it really is a big move. It just feels like honestly, it just feels like we're so far down the pipeline at this point that like even this move, as big as it was, it's just like, okay, well, we've been waiting for this for a little bit. Like, I'm happy that we got here, but I don't want to be too pessimistic on it. I'm happy for the move. I'm excited to talk about it.
well, you weren't here last week. So after that episode, how did you feel going into this one?
I mean, look, I don't think that I am alone in saying that I was a little bit frustrated after the last episode. And I think that going into this one, like, yeah, I think I did not have my hopes up. I was like the opposite of optimistic. Sadly, going into it, just because I think that we're waiting for like a move to be made, and we are on the outside. We have more information than them. Like I always want to, have that be top of mind for myself. Remind other fans that we are watching the edited product where we are getting to see all the conversations. We are getting to see everything that's important, everything that's vital for the storytelling of the season. But at the end of the day, these contestants don't have as much information as us. So I'm sure it is harder for them to know when to make a move, know when we were on the outside, frustrated that it's not being made for so long. But I am just happy that we actually got something new here. We got something spicy. We got some cannibalism within the big alliance, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Me too. Amy, I want to give you a shout out as well. It is our second to last episode of the season
Cool.
together. This, even though I'm gonna say it, I've had my ups and downs with this season. Every week I look forward to Saturday to talk to all of you and to talk to Phil and Ollie, my co-host. So I'm excited. Why don't we get right into it? And to your point, Phil, let's pretend we're better than everyone else and know exactly what we're doing in the game of Survivor. So I did find it interesting, kind of where we started it off, and something that keeps jumping out at me about this moment in particular was it cut to Mitch at some point during this, and Mitch said, "I've been waiting to make a move, and now it's time to make a move." And honestly, I don't know if Mitch knows who he would make a move against.
I also just think that after the last two episodes, like it was hilarious. I remember that too. Yes, you see Mitch talking about making a move, and it's like that was the narrative like 2 episodes ago. Again, like it just feels like it's like okay, back when Star was still here, we were talking about making a move. We sort of were chant. We had this sort of same chant, and so it is ironic that I feel like, but again, it's like for them, this was like this is like 2 or 3 days later. It's like I do want to give the grace, but I found it a little ironic to hear the starting echoes. It felt like of we have to make a move, and it's like yeah, you've had to make a move for a while, and you're right. I don't think that he even knew who he wanted to make a move against. I believe you get so disillusioned after you don't do it for so long.
And I think to the like credit of Kyle and Camilla, now they are in a spot where they could say like this was always the spot that would have been the best for us to make the move. Like we sort of trimmed off the edges a little bit. We left less wiggle room for others to pull ahead of us. And like we knew at 6 we're going to make a move and therefore go into the final 5 with us holding the majority at least, or what it seems like. I think that they were counting Mitch in their 3 at the end as well. But it's weird to see this photo now and like know where we end up just because they were so tight. They were so tight, and it's interesting. But we go to our tree mail and we have our reward challenge, which I kept thinking was immunity challenge. So as you can imagine, I was very surprised with the winner. Like what happened with the winner of this challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, well, again, and like not to mention, I think that we've been waiting for Shaheen to get a win. Shaheen hasn't gotten a win the whole entire season. So yeah, I do think that like I similarly, I guess I don't necessarily think that I was looking at it being like is this the immunity challenge? But I think that I was definitely excited to see a new winner come around the block. And when it got down to Kyle and Shaheen, I was really, really rooting for Shaheen. No, even knowing it wasn't immunity, I was like, let's get this guy a win, please. Let's mix it up. Let's get something different out here. You know,
I was really happy for him. I really, especially this version of this looked tough. The last time I remember they did this was, I remember it in 45. I don't remember if they did it in 46.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember, and
47.
you might need to jog my memory here. There was definitely some dramatics of someone not being able to swim,
Yeah,
right?
I remember that.
Who was that again? Am I believe that I remember someone was it Chanel?
Katora?
Katora? Yes, that's right. It was Katora. I think that's what I'm thinking about.
So,
Um,
but
Go
look at like the setting now. It was like the rocky. It was raining. They were all miserable. Camilla was like, "Jeff, speed it up. We could let's just get out of here." And I would not like to do it in this setting.
Yeah, I feel like the setting definitely made it extra tough because you're right. It was like raining. It was extra dreary. But I do feel like it seemed like it was a good fight, at least between Shaheen and Kyle. Like they both definitely seemed like they were like like they were giving it their all. Something that I did find a little bit funny was when Eva dropped immediately. I don't know if you noticed this. Immediately after Eva dropped, Joe dropped, and it was like, did you notice this? Or is it just me?
I noticed it, but I didn't make like the connection that you're making here. That's good.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't even necessarily know if it was anything substantial, but it is definitely something that I noticed. Where I was like, was that like a Joe waiting for? Like, it didn't make any sense. I don't think that there was anything there, but that was definitely something that when it happened, that is something that I kept quiz bowling in my head. I was like, is this like? Are we supposed to pick something up by this? Yeah, Amy, I noticed it and wondered why. I noticed it too. Okay, I'm happy to hear that because I was like, why are they giving so much attention to this? And I do think, and I'm sure that we'll get to it as we talk about the whole entire episode here. But it's like we saw so much of this episode from Joe's point of view, even things that had nothing to do with Joe. And I think that was one of those moments. Like as the Evo was falling here, it was like almost made to be a Joe moment where like you see Joe look and then he decides to fall. It seemed like they made it a point to focus on him here. But again, there's so many moments in this episode where I think that Joe was the natural focus. I mean, in my opinion, I think that the most interesting part of this whole entire episode is to come. I mean, it's obviously the big lie that Camilla and Kyle conjure up, and I think that this was a little bit more of a flatter portion of the episode for me, this beginning portion.
Yeah, I mean, but even what you're talking about with the whole strategy leading up to tribal council, you're completely right. The narrative fell in Joe's court in terms of where he was choosing to go with his vote. So it felt like a fork in the road episode. Like this is the reason why Joe's going to win, or this is the reason why Joe's going to lose. Like it felt a little bit like we're going to look back at this episode because of this vote, essentially. I'm with Amy also. Like this is the reward I would not want to win, especially I was so happy he did not surprise them with letters from home. He announced it right from the start, and I appreciated that.
I think that like that's so. I think that the big moment with Joe speaking on his sister was very groundbreaking. We're going to get to that, I'm sure. But I think that even it just being like a family letter reward episode, to me, I'm like sitting here being like, oh my god, that's right, that was the reward today. Which is weird because you would think that it was something that was a little bit more heavy-handed, but we really have had. I feel like some bigger episodes in the past, maybe. And maybe I'm completely misremembering that, but Um, yeah, we got some family letters from home, and
Yeah, I
the guys are all going together.
I had
No
a
Eva,
similar
no Eva.
feeling that you had here, but like the decision to bring Joe. Let's talk about this because I know it also comes up later in the tribe is posted, but it's a night away from camp with soft goods and pillows. There's food, so nutrition. There is the letters from home. Like it is the full package of rewards, like that you are fueling someone with or fueling yourself with. Um, I kind of forget his reasoning for picking Joe in the first place. Do you remember?
Yes, I think that it sort of just goes into his whole entire branding, right? It's like Joe is the family man, and he's saying he's like Joe. There hasn't been a day out here where you haven't brought up your family. Like I want to make sure that I'm giving you the opportunity to get these letters from home. And look, this part was a really emotional moment. Again, I think that like for me, the beginning of this episode was a little bit more slow, and I think that it does pick up. But I think that this is where I started to feel connected to just these three guys reading their stories from home, and they each have their own reasoning. I mean, even Kyle getting his letter from his father in saying, "Hey, I'm able to sit beside these two guys who have lost their fathers," and Joe is speaking about how much he loves being a father. Like, it really did tug on the heartstrings.
Yeah, I think Kyle's letter from his dad was maybe one of my favorite letters from home. It was so beautiful to listen to, and I love that Shaheen and Joe sort of said that's what our dads would say. Like they sort of
Yeah.
used it as their motivation too, and it was beautiful. And I did l- Joe and what his sister and family went through. That's so tragic, and
Yeah.
it I got emotional listening about it. It's a sensitive topic. I'm so glad he is bringing awareness to it, and also you see on his wristband that he's very much pushing that issue to the forefront, and I'm glad there's more awareness about it. But it just broke my heart to hear what he went through.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I'm really happy that Survivor gave him the moment, because there is a world where they, don't leave room for this. They cut this out. They don't build this into his story. And I feel like this has been a large part of his whole story, but getting to see him like really like find resolution within himself, like with himself and with this whole scenario, um, which has clearly been something that has been like eating him up that he seems to have like a bit of regret about in terms of like I'm your brother, like I always wanted to be your protector and I wasn't able to do that. Like allowing him to actually speak on those things, it was unbelievably powerful. And like I really feel like that like this is what drew me back into the episode. Is just like whoa, like you know um we talk about certain seasons having more or less boring gameplay, but at the end of the day, like I think that a through line of Survivor that is like consistent and a true promise to the audience is that you're going to get moments like these where they're just these superhuman moments, these super grounded moments, like where you're seeing these people really reach their own core, and for some of them, like for the first time, I mean, Kyle even talking about like, wow, my dad saying all this. Like, I haven't even heard my dad tell me this ever really before, and you're seeing him be able to interact with that in real time. Like, that is the special bit of this show that I truly love. And I really do think that even on seasons where the strategy's not gangbusters, um, you get moments like this that you're able to connect to. And yes, Amy, right there, the fact that his last phone call with his sister was heated, like that even adds to it, right? He's able to really tell a story. He's like, look, like I have so much regret about that last conversation. We did not tell each other we loved each other. Like it's this one hit. This one hit for sure.
I'm trying not to tear up again because like it really did hit. So I'm gonna keep moving us along, but we're gonna, check back in with Joe in a little bit. But Mitch is not happy. Mitch is not happy with the choice. Oh, Ollie's here. Ollie, I'll let you decide when you want to jump in whenever you're ready. I don't think he has the power to do so, everyone. So there he is.
Yeah, I can.
Oh,
I was just waiting. I was being polite. I've been sat here for like 10 minutes. Wow, rude.
all right, Ollie. Let us keep going.
Welcome, Ali. What are your thoughts?
It's been great, or I'm sorry, it's been really bad. Don't know what the discussion's been. Sorry, my mind's still going.
Well, is there anything from the beginning of the episode that you wanted to give your 2 cents about?
No.
Okay, so we come back to camp and what the heck? Oh, Marianne, I just want to read your comment before we get too far. Marianne, I was in tears during the scene with Joe talking about his. I know. It was very well done, and I'm glad he had that moment. And like Phil said, Survivor gave him that moment. So Mitch, Eva, Camilla, all back at camp. Eva feels like, why am I stuck in the babysitter role? There we go. Then I feel like there's not much to talk. Like this feels very general, like Survivor talking points.
Well, that's the thing, and I was going to say that, like, getting to this, and I think that is, and I don't want to be the pessimist this episode. I feel so
be
bad.
the pessimist.
I wasn't here last week, and I'm usually the positive person about like all these episodes and everything going on with Survivor. Y'all know I love Survivor. Everyone knows I love Survivor. Whatever. This season, like, yeah, it's just things like this that have been like, what is like. How can I get invested in the storyline where Mitch is frustrated, realizing that he is not on the top line of this alliance when it's like, dude, it has been so obvious that you're not on the top line of this, not on the top line of this alliance for a long time, and you have had multiple opportunities to make dents and cracks to be the top line of your own new leading alliance of the season. And I just don't. I do feel like moments like these have fallen short for me in terms of connecting with me.
I agree with you. I think though with Mitch,
where's Zans? Zans, call him out. Okay.
No, but what I think it is when I was listening to the episode, Mitch kept coming back to the fact of we've made it to the 6, we got to the 6, now's the time to make a move. So I don't know whether that is other people have put it in Mitch's head, we can't make a move until 6 because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know. That's just a theory. But I don't know that's why he has been constantly saying that. Do I think he should have made a move sooner? Absolutely. Have I moaned about that for the last 2 weeks? Yeah. But yeah, this scene was slightly generalized. I didn't get a photo of it, but it was mainly like Eva calling these two her parents. And I was just like, Eva, you're just mad you didn't go on your 5th reward.
Yeah, what I took away from this was just, Mitch feeling betrayed by these 3 and it being like, oh, well, these 3 are going off on their own, kings of the palace. And it's like, this is not a new dynamic. This is existing for a long time.
I do slightly understand though why I understand why he was mad that Joe got taken, because I do feel like if Joe got taken for a reward right now, I would sit there and be like, why are you feeding him of all people? In the sense of like, you're giving him nourishment, you're giving him a good sleep, like he's going to be great for the competitions that he's already good at. That part I could understand. Sorry, I just jumped in there.
Yeah, I guess what I don't understand is that Mitch is also a part of the camp that gave him a pass to continue to win challenges, continue to like be the leading front person of this whole entire season. Like, granted, yes, I guess final 8, specifically Joe got immunity. You put off Eva. There's things to do, and I do think it's inexcusable, to be completely honest. And we do have visible here. How funny! Waiting till final 6. Cheyenne said in his exit press that he convinced Mitch that they were going to do something at 6, but Mitch was the plan at 6 the whole time. So you're sitting there waiting for your own funeral, and then moments like this happen, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the dynamic. I'm blown away, and it's like, dude, you literally had people going up to you at 8, asking you to be a resurgence, right? The revolution will be televised. We remember. It's so yes, it's been a little bit frustrating to get into the deep strategy, but I'm happy that something happened this week. But even so, I'm sorry, Mitch did not make it happen. It was Kyle. It was Kyle and Camilla. So, kudos to those two.
Yes, to all of it. The thing again, I love Mitch as a person, so like he has such a great personality. When watching these episodes, and I think a core mistake of his game, if I could say so now, just after the fact, was taking the votes against him from Star and Mary too much to heart. Like I think that really weighed down his game to a bad place because people keep convincing him that he can't trust them because they wrote down his name. Hey, we never wrote down your name. Like, well, come with us, and the easy path is to do that. So,
I agree with you there, Matthew. Matthew, I agree with. Not Phil, you.
Thank you. But okay. Next. Okay. So here this comes. So Shaheen does throw out Eva's name if Joe wins, and Kyle's right. This gives Kyle everything he possibly needs to paint a target onto Shaheen. Anytime we are doing strat chat before an immunity challenge, it is so risky, it seems like, to bring up names, especially names of people in your alliance.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you're essentially, like, strategizing around a potential.
A hypothetical. Yeah. Like, we're not...
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
Or, it's okay. So... Kyle does the right thing with this. He absolutely takes this to his advantage and keeps it in his back pocket. He doesn't use it quite yet because obviously we need to see who ends up winning immunity, but he does inform Camilla of like, here's what's going to be our plan. Here's what's going to happen. And I like these two. I want one of them to win.
I love these two. Yeah. I want one of these two to win. I am being more biased and saying I want Camilla to win, but that's just because I love Camilla more. So sorry.
Yeah, these two have like my investment this season. They really, really do. And again, I feel like these have been the movers and shakers this season. Even in the background, like I feel like they have, always sort of had a pulse on like every part of the game, both sides, really. And it is very, very great to see them be able to like utilize all this sort of like good credit that they built with all these people to make this move. The truth is, this move at this point could not have been pulled off by anybody else. This is something that I think that like they were only able to do themselves because they've built the foundation to be able to do it. Also, Ali, you've got a little highlight.
Yeah, I do. I fully do, and I will not be ashamed of that. I always want women to win.
I love it. No, but I am right there with you. I think that I really would love for either of these two to win. And I think that they would be very, very deserving. And, we brought it up earlier in the episode. Obviously, it does not come up until later. But, like, I feel like either of them sitting against Joe is not looking so scary anymore because they've set themselves up with a checkmate, with a checkmate of him being like, waiting for the bomb drop of, Shaheen, I had to vote you off because you had an idol. And for one of them or both of them to say, we made that up. We were in the know. We completely snowed you. There you go.
The fact that Joe's whole thing was honesty and integrity, and he voted out someone who was two. Yeah, he voted out people that were in that. Tease what today. Let's go to the immunity challenge where we get. So okay, Ollie, I was telling Phil before when the challenge, the reward challenge that happened. I thought that was the immunity challenge.
And then everyone thought that.
Somehow I missed this. And so when it was like Shaheen was on the block, I was like, guys, you can't vote out Shaheen. You can't do it. So like I missed this whole thing.
Yeah. Wait, you missed this whole challenge?
I don't remember it.
I love
That's really wild. I was gonna say I was actually really impressed by this challenge.
Yeah.
It actually felt very unique and different. And I really liked the barrel walking on the string. That actually felt really creative.
I think that was added. I feel like that was added because we've seen this challenge before, and I think the barrels were a new concept.
They saw
yeah,
Australia do it, and they said, "That please."
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I do love it. Yeah, I think that, but Matthew, exactly there. That's why I love it, because it just felt more Australian Survivor to me. So I was like, okay, I'm on
Because it
board.
had barrels? Wasn't
Yeah.
everything else besides the barrels pretty much like we've seen it in a different obstacle course?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we've even seen. I mean, we've also seen the barrels before,
Yeah.
just not
They're
used.
not they're not unique to Australia, but I just feel like Australia
Yeah.
utilized them the
They're-
best.
They use them more.
Yeah, they're just not. They just weren't utilized like this. I typically remember the barrels being used in Dirty 30 for some reason. That is one that I always remember.
Yes. Yes. And also, was that Cambodia? Okay.
No. Dirty 30 was Worlds Apart.
Oh, okay. Because in Cambodia
and-
there were also barrels, and Monica got stuck in one.
Yeah. Worlds Apart was one where. I mean, yeah, they
love
barrels,
Monica
they had to do it across.
Yeah. Well, applause for the barrels, everyone. They really
Yeah, barrels.
added something, but Joe ends up winning, and everyone's like, "We knew this was going to happen." You know, everyone who saw Shaheen pick him said, "Well, look what happened, Shaheen." Who said it? I think it was Camilla who said, Shaheen basically wrote his name down on the parchment, or said he like put his game in fit, like he chose to bring Joe there, like that's his game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like if I was anyone else and I saw Joe win at this point, I'd be like, oh, okay, Shaheen fueled him. I'll go for Shaheen, because at this point, like I said, Joe's the one person you don't need fueled, because he's just going to win the challenges. And unfortunately, from a game aspect, he's going to try and use that to show how much better of a player than he thinks he is. Sorry, that sounded harsher than I was intending it.
Shady. Anyway, so moving on up to the big move. All right, now the plans are in action. Kyle and Camilla, they rehearsed their parts, and they said, here's how this is going to operate. And we jump right in. And I think it is amazing. That the Shaheen has an idol rumor that was started all the way in the beginning of the season when the tribes swapped for the first time, has not only played into several votes in the merge and reasons why people got votes put on them, but also came up here. So I did like that sort of story arc that, and I think that's where a little bit of Survivor luck comes in, like being able to constantly have that plant that idea around Shaheen without it really getting back to him as a concern was pretty awesome. So there's that element. And Kyle takes it one step further and does tell Joe the truth. Shaheen brought up Eva's name. He's ready to flip. And then adds one more thing, which is that Shaheen showed Camilla the idol.
And I was worried, but I think I will say it's how Camilla handled it. I think Camilla handled it great, and I think not enough people are giving Camilla credit here for what she did. But this scene I found interesting because this is where we start to see Joe's paranoia come in, but he does a okay job at questioning, which I think is good. You need to question everything in Survivor, but I don't think he did it enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that I like that you brought up, Matt, is that a lot of times it was seeded so early on that Shaheen might have an idol, and that there was so much risk that lie could have possibly sprinkled out to where it's learned very early on, hey, Kyle and Camilla are relying on Shaheen, and it just happened to not this time around. And I think that I don't think that that's luck or coincidence. I think that that's really does speak to just like how insulated they made themselves as like allies with other folks on their tribe camp, because at the end of the day, I think that more often than not, I think that this ends up getting leaked. the early seed of them trying to plant something on Shaheen, and then even this move right here. I feel like more often than not, this is being discovered, this is being figured out. And I think that what we're seeing is like the best case scenario of this actually working. And I think that's what makes it so impressive. I think that's why people are so impressed by it. You look like you want to say something, Ollie?
Yeah.
Are you saying that you, Phil, agree with Matthew?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Matthew, how do you feel? He's agreeing
Take that,
with you.
Zans. Ha! It's not even, I feel bad. Sorry, Zans. You're not even here.
I'm gonna watch
Anyway.
this back and be like, I have become a part of the podcast, and yes, you have.
Yeah. There's several of you who are in our live chat. I just feel like you're all kind of a part of the got something for you lore. So again, thank you just so much for being here. Roy says the Camilla Shaheen connection goes back to the challenge pick a few episodes ago. Someone jog my memory.
There was a connection between Camilla and Shaheen, and it goes back to a challenge pick a few episodes.
Yeah, when they were all split up. Remember, guys, when
pairings
into different pairs, and then Shaheen picked Camilla. But the episode before that was when they were trying to plant an idea that he was not really a part of the alliance like he said he was. This is the whole thing. Is that this was all so deeply seated, and I am just obsessed with the fact that it actually worked out. That's what I'm saying. This all started so early on. Ollie is catching up right before our eyes.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, because
Ollie shook his head like he knew exactly what Roy was talking about, and then he did not know.
Exactly. He pretended to know.
Because it was where Joe had the confessional of like, right, Shaheen picks Camilla, meaning they're really close, and oh my god, well done.
Yes. This has all been seeded. I mean, very early on. I mean, from the swap before the merge.
And also, can I just say in my defense, I am multitasking, so that's why my brain forgot.
Turn off Eurovision, Ollie.
No, I love Eurovision. You can't make me not.
You have a show to do, and there are people here to hear your opinion.
The UK is about to perform. We're not going to win, but at least these.
All right. Well, Ollie's going to take a little bit of a break, everyone. But we will be right back. How can you still be heard?
That was terrifying.
It really was. All right. Sorry, everyone. So, with Joe and Eva, he obviously asks her what her thoughts are on all of this. So I'm glad he's like, taking the information, but he does go and ends up checking with Camilla. Ollie, if you want to talk a little bit more about this, you already kind of spoke about this.
Yeah. I think Camilla did a great job at when she checked in with Joe and she knew it was coming, she'd already kind of fact checked with Kyle, so knew what to expect. But obviously, she didn't fully know what he was going to say. So how she was able to then kind of adapt to what she heard from Joe and kind of correlate.
See, I thought they pre-planned. Good. I thought they had an idea.
No, they did. Yeah. But obviously, there is parts of it that you can't you can't tell, because Joe may say something and it may not be 100% how you think it should have come across. But it was like how she spoke about the idol. I think it was beautifully done where she said, he showed me beads. She technically never said idol. She never lumped the word idol in there. She went, it's beads. He showed me beads and said, we're fine, we're good. And I think that was really smart of Camilla, because Camilla never openly said, I think Shaheen has an idol, but showing me this and this correlation, that links up to what Kyle said. So that's why I think it was great on Camilla, because if Joe went straight to Shaheen and was like, Camilla said you had an idol, Camilla can come back and go, no, what I said was you showed me beads. She never directly said she had an idol. So she was like unintentionally saving herself.
But the question then becomes, did Shaheen in fact show her beads?
Exactly.
So, I do think Camilla did a good job here. Yeah. She almost got punished by karma with a tree falling on her head, but thankfully...
Oh my God.
No, that was crazy.
She just went right back to it. The tree fell right behind her and she said, yeah, so anyway, Shaheen. It's like... But listen, Camilla did a great job. And you know what, going back to Joe a little bit, I'm glad that he considered why. I just want everyone to know I did not do that to Ollie. Ollie did that to himself. I'm glad that Joe asked the question, like, who's telling me this? Why are they telling me this? Why the timing of this? I wanted to give Joe flowers for, because it's the absolute right question to ask. Camilla did great. Kyle did great of setting this up. But then we have this conversation. Oh, no, this is a talking head. But then we have this conversation between Joe and Shaheen. And this irritated me so much. I think it was the part where Joe admitted to, like, I went full father. Like, I went full dad mode. I was like, he's a grown man. You know, I don't know. It didn't feel right.
No, just quickly, I did not like that. I felt like this was poor on Joe's part, because it was bad social play. It was bad jury management. And I think he already know he's sending Shaheen to the jury, and Shaheen's now going to have a negative connotation now with Joe. So I don't think it was great. Anyways, I'm going to go watch.
Also, forget all those things. Like, this was bad investigation. This was bad investigating. Like, at the very least, you're supposed to, you just ask the direct question. Hey, did you ever show Camilla your idol? And try to read his response to that. What he's doing here, like, you can't read this because you're not actually saying anything. You know, it felt like he was sort of going around and being like, well, look, if you're doing something shady, like, I'm going to find out, whatever. And Shaheen is sitting there like, dude, what are you talking about? There's nothing shady there's nothing shady happening here. And I think that he would have been better off. I mean, obviously at this point, Joe would have been better off just like directly being like, hey, I'm hearing whispers about you in an idol. Can you talk to me about that? Even if he said it like that, he doesn't have to be as direct as like, hey, this person said that you showed them your idol. If he said, hey, I'm hearing whispers about you in an idol, what do you know about that? What do I need to know about that? Like, I think that he would have gotten more of what he needed here,
It would have gave him more information to make the best decision for his game. And the thing, like, if I was in Shaheen's shoes here, I wouldn't know how to react. Like, like he said, this is his first time he's talking to his number one after the challenge win. So, like, it's like, the whole scene just irritated me. I agree with you in the sense that, like, well, it's just everything, but also just the fact that there you go, Zans. But also just the fact that Joe, I don't know what his goal was. Like, I don't know what he was trying to get out of Shaheen here, because like, Shaheen was telling him, like, what, I don't know. Yeah, Roy, I think let's talk about this, because I'm so confused. I think so. I agree. Like, I do think so. That this was a big tell. But I also think that they edit Tribal Council to show there's a correct decision and a wrong decision. I think that they kind of do the red pill, blue pill type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, this was obviously very bad for his game, but this was not, I don't necessarily think that this is like where he lost the game per se. I do think that he like truly fully lost the game at Tribal with to your point. I think red pill, blue pill, he went with the wrong decision, and he went with Kyle, which I think seals his fate, like I said before, of either Kyle or Camilla winning, unless he gets there and it's Joe, Eva, Mitch. I think that he can win in a Joe, Eva, Mitch. I don't think that he wins going there with Kyle or Camilla.
Not at this point. I don't think.
No, again, I think that they have like checkmated his best move. They've literally checkmated his best move. They have checkmated his like entire like season long ethos straight up. Like they have decimated what he stands for, which is like accidentally. I'll say that. Like, I don't think that Joe meant to betray Shaheen in the way that he did here, but he still did. You know what I mean? Like, whether he meant to or not, he did send Shaheen home for a reason that did not really exist in real life, which is that he had this idol, or that he had turned his back on Joe, which never actually happened. And so at the end of the day, Joe just betrayed Shaheen, which was his whole point of playing this game was to not do something like that. So I did feel a little bit bad for Joe here. It's like, man, he's really snowed.
And also in Amy, thank you for this comment. In an interview with Shaheen, he said this convo happened after he knew Joe had his sister talk moment.
Okay.
So he cut Joe some slack when Shaheen didn't know why Joe was talking to him like that. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I still think that Joe showed that he got outwitted a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh god, 100%. Yeah. And I know I was busy. But yeah, where it said this is where Joe lost the game, I do think this is where Joe lost the game. I just wanted to agree.
Busy with what?
I was watching Eurovision.
Yeah, I do think though. I do think that just like I think that this was in a weird way. I guess Shaheen's point in the interview, like, given what happened to him on that reward, I think that it was like easier to excuse this behavior than it would have been on maybe a normal day, you know, where there clearly weren't so many emotions that were flaring up, you know, and I'm sure that played into it. That it was just like, oh, Joe had a really emotional day. He's not thinking right. You know, let me just give him some space, you know, versus being like, I genuinely don't know what's going on with him. Like, I want to talk to him, you know.
But there's still a vote, you know, like there's still his
yeah,
game
but,
is up in the air.
Again, I even think genuinely, I don't think that Shaheen thought that they were going to be voting him off here. I think that he thought that Joe was upset with him, and it was like, okay, this is weird. I'm gonna have to figure this out tomorrow, but whatever. Like we hear so many survivors say, that's a tomorrow problem. You know, it seemed like he was like, okay, like, you know, Joe's mad. It's like when you and your really good friend get into an argument, and you know, we literally saw it. Shaheen is clearly bothered by it because he's in an argument with his best friend. So he's talking about it with anyone that will listen, talking about it with this person, talking about it with that person, talking about it with the next person. But
I did find that funny.
I found it hilarious. But at the end of the day, it's just like, that's still your bestie. And the reason why you're so bothered is because you love that person. And that's what it felt like to me. It's like he expected this to be like, oh, why is he acting so weird? I'm going to steam out and talk about it with other people. But like, you know, we'll be over this by tomorrow. And I don't think that he saw this as being like something that was going to end his game because he didn't do anything. That's the irony, you know. Like, this was something like he didn't have the defense for this. He was never given the opportunity to defend himself. And I think that was the fault of Joe. Joe should have been more straight up.
Yes, and I also will say, like, to your point about Joe not interrogating very well, I feel like Shaheen kind of dropped the ball on figuring out what was going on too. Obviously, Kyle and Camilla were tight-lipped about it because they don't want him hearing about what they did. That would be insane. So like, but I do think it didn't seem like he left from this position for very long. Like one of you said it about being like being in an argument with a friend. Phil, you said it, being in an argument with a friend and then just kind of just like letting everyone come to you to try to, you know, get on your side or whatever. But, you know, and Camilla's just like, hey, I got my bus driver's license. And
oh my God, this was
beep, beep.
One of the best confessionals. I bloody loved it. Just her talking about the bus. And I feel like that, like, she did kind of talk about her game quite well here because I felt like she has been a little agent of chaos and no one has clocked it. And I'm like, go Camilla.
And Roy, you make the exact point. Shaheen's combo with Camilla here showed the plan is working. Yeah. So like they're Camilla and Kyle are thrilled. I think they tried. Like, I think Kyle did say something in a confessional that was like, oh, this is like worst case scenario when like Shaheen was like freaking out. And I was like, I don't believe that. You know, like I think that you have to say those things because maybe you are feeling nervous, but like this seemed like pretty best case scenario to me.
Yeah, definitely.
And then what was this moment?
This was just the last bit where they were talking beforehand. Mm-hmm. And this is the only time Joe has ever said, do we think Kyle and Camilla are actually like playing one over on us?
Yeah.
And it was kind of both of them were like, they kind of like, they didn't necessarily say it, but I feel like when you listen to the combo back, they obviously think about it, but then they're like, well, we'll just have to wait and see. But I feel like it's kind of one of those, it was more brushed off, but I do feel like it was still worth noting.
It is said out loud, blatantly by our friend Eva, She says, look, I trust Kyle way more than I trust Shaheen. And I think that once again, I think that's that's right, the point of approval. But I feel like
No.
but I feel like that I think is what was going on here. And I really honestly I think this is where I was most nervous that Kyle was going to get found out, was just this sitting here in once again this true like pot of trust with Eva and Joe, where Joe is able to once again sort of reveal a little bit and say, hey, what the F is going on here? Like, what do you think is going on? Do we trust them or not? What's what's your thought, Eva? Please, like, be honest with me. And I think that that's the thing. It's a shame, but like Eva didn't have the right info either. But I think again, I think this is like long-term work. You know what I mean? I think that they have been talking about Shaheen possibly being the loosest wheel on this wagon for a long time. Yeah. And it's because they have thought about doing this again since like the swap, you know, since before merge, since the first swap when it was Joe, Thomas, Kyle, Camilla, and Shaheen. So this has been a long time coming. And this is like, this really does feel, and I believe it's Kyle that might have said this, this feels like the final act to their whole entire almost season long like play. They have been,
he did say that.
Yeah, they have been completely obfuscating reality for this one relationship for so long.
I just had this realization. They pulled this stunt twice in front of Joe and Shaheen, but twice now in front of Joe. You're right with the Thomas vote.
Right. Well, that's what I think makes it more effective, man. I think that's my whole thing is that like, I think that it's one of those things where it's like, oh, if it doesn't like, you know, if it works, don't if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's like, look, this worked one time. They know how Joe is. Joe is a very emotional player, you know, muscles aside, this guy plays with his heart, you know, like that is what he plays with. He's not a strategist. So they know that, you know, and they're using it against him.
And Isabel says this conversation was similar to the one they had before David vote off. Yeah, it was. You know what, Isabel, I think that's a good point because it also like this season it feels a little repetitive to me, and I think that's why things are starting to blend together a little bit more. But yeah, they definitely had. Isabel says last time it was Eva nervous and Joe being like, "No, we can't trust David." Yep, that's right.
Yep.
So then we go to tribal council, and this was a really interesting tribal council. They make a really interesting decision.
Well, I think it's so funny because this is like one of the most unique editing choices we've ever seen from Survivor. And it's ironic because you're right. I think that like going here to like talk about tribal was all about Joe, to the point that when two people are talking and giving their tribal monologues, like on multiple occasions, they just completely tuned them out. And like the focus, this whole entire tribal, it had nothing to do with what they were talking about. It had entirely to do with whether or not Joe was going to properly read his two allies that he has had the entire game. Is he able to read Shaheen? Is he able to read Kyle? Is he going to make the right decision? And the answer is no. But I got to a point where I thought that he might make the right decision. I mean, again, like this was very unique and fun and interesting and different. And I like this.
I do think that he came into tribal council. I do think Joe came in already knowing what he was going to do. But I think the edit was very good and also put that into my mind too, Phil. But the thing is, I do wonder, how do y'all feel about the like pulling Roy liked it, the like audio out and doing the
I liked it because again, man, it's like I do think that this is one of those things where like I think that we're taken into his like literal brain and thought process here. Where like I have been in these sort of scenarios where you're like, okay, what you're saying is not important. Like I'm trying to read you as a person. Like, is what you're saying truthful or not? Forget what like the actual words coming into your mouth. Like, let me just read you in your body language, you know. And that's what it felt like this was. And honestly, I think this was like a step further to like the Rachel, you know, taking a beat to use her shot in the dark, look around and go, okay, are people going to be voting for me? Should I be using my actual advantage? You know, this is like a heightened version of that, where it's like Joe being like, decision for my game. I guess once again the reason why, I mean, he made the wrong decision where Rachel made the right decision, but I do. I literally think this is a heightened version of that. To be honest.
Yeah, and Amy liked it as well because it's
Yeah.
something that they've never done before.
I liked it. Are you guys hating? You didn't like it?
I'm mixed, and I'll explain why. But Ollie,
I know Ollie's hating in that mind of his. Look at him, Ollie. Speak up.
Sorry, I'm like double. I mean, the only thing I can think of is Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. And that's the only reason.
Copyright. Okay.
Yeah, I literally only took this photo, and I was like, if Matthew doesn't appreciate this photo, I'm gonna lose.
Well, you
it.
told me I have a photo that you're gonna love, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. So I
and
went
what
into the text and I
photo was
looked,
it?
and
The
you were talking
oversold.
about the
You-
Mamma Mia one. I was looking at
Yeah.
David's muscles. I said yes, I would love.
Honestly,
By the way,
showmance of the
David-
season
David
is Matthew and David's muscles.
I was gonna say David's shirt.
Sorry, that's not a shirt. That's a vest top.
Right. Can he wear just like a tee? Can he like mix it up? Everyone sort of has their own personal swag. I feel like he doesn't look too much different. I want him to wear something like he's out of the game now. He can wear regular clothes.
I'm good with this.
This is his regular clothes. This is no shade to
fine.
David. This is what David wears 24/7.
Oh my God. I guess if I had muscles like that, I'd wear that too. Anyways, where are we going from here?
Ollie, did you say all you wanted about this editing choice?
Yeah.
It's funny to me that the editors kind of finally picked up on the fact that what's said at tribal council, at least in this moment, may not be that important to hear, for the audience to have to hear. So they
Right.
took advantage of that and they did this whole thing. But I do think that this is the moment that Joe wins or lose the game type of edit. And I think it was the wrong decision, like you said, Phil, and I think it's a
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah,
agreed.
this is that moment for me. This is his win or loss, like complete binary choice, like one or the other. If he chooses one, the other one cannot be true.
Then he makes his choice, and Shaheen gets voted out. And I will say, when Shaheen stood up, and I think it was Camilla, Kyle, and Mitch sitting in front, and then it was Joe and Eva sitting in the back. I wonder if Joe and Eva recognized that. Like all of a
Ooh.
sudden they were just two of them. Like I wonder if
Yeah.
they picked up on that. Also, the way the votes came out, like to see that Shaheen did not in fact vote for Eva. And actually, I think that what would have like really it's a great move. I want to be clear. Kyle and Camilla did a great thing here in terms of the gameplay. But the thing that might have really set them over the top is if they actually did get Shaheen to write Eva's name down.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's interesting that Camilla voted for Mitch. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
You're not
she did.
wrong.
That is the one question that I have. I'm curious. Why do you think that Camilla voted for Mitch? Hi, Matthew. I know you're.
Hi.
Do you know? Yeah. Sorry, Ollie, please.
I'm unsure in the sense of like, I don't know whether it was to placate something. There must have been, like, we all know Camilla. She would have done it for a reason. She, especially knowing how clued in she was on everything that was going on, there must be a reason that maybe we will see at the start of the finale. But possibly it's to, obviously, because people thought that her and Shaheen were close, maybe it was to like be like placate that, like, oh, like how you've said it was deep rooted that Joe thought Shaheen and Camilla were close, and maybe Camilla had gone, he is someone that I've worked really closely with. I feel like I can't write his name down. Is it okay if I like I know what's happening, I'm fine with it, can I just do this?
I see what
Maybe.
you're saying. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe she'll surprise me and say
Maybe.
that that's what it was, but I don't know. That Camilla strikes me as the person who's going to do what's necessary to be
But
done.
that's the thing. It was strange, right? It was a little surprising.
We'll see what she says, because they're going to have to try to explain it. It is interesting they didn't read the vote. I know that they didn't read her vote. At least I don't think. Or did they? Sorry, they might have.
They did.
They did.
They did.
Yeah, because there were only
Two votes.
Yeah.
Got it. So anyway, also Amy, I agree with you. Mary love her dress on the jury. She looks really good. And then
Yeah.
So
She's
then,
the only one helping with the looks.
thank you, Mary. So then we have our final 5, everyone. Our top 5
Wow.
of the season. Kyle, Joe,
Wait,
Eva, Mitch, Camilla.
I didn't get to give my flowers to Shaheen.
Come on, Matthew.
Sorry.
Well done, Shaheen. You were great. Okay, move on. No, I'm joking. Imagine I just did that. No, I just like to give Shaheen his flowers because he was my second draft pick and he's now out. Sad times. But I did like Shaheen. I think he had like a bit of a roller coaster, but I feel like he would do great on a second chances style return. So I'd love to see him come back. Thanks, love
Yeah.
you.
I'm happy Ollie slowed this down. I know Matthew was like the biggest Shaheen hater this whole entire season, but I figure that, because me and Ollie respect Shaheen, we want to make sure we give him his flowers. All jokes aside, Shaheen is like, I felt like he was very unique casting, and it was like unique in like not a frontman being super bombastic sense. Like, he just felt like he was a unique individual on this show, straight up. Like, and I didn't feel like he was like overselling it. It felt like he was being genuine to who he was, and he truly just felt unique. Ollie,
I have one more thing to say to Shaheen. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. That's what I wanted to say.
You interrupted Phil to do that? You were gonna get there.
Boo. Anywho, those are my thoughts. Matthew, final thoughts?
Are you sure, Phil? I want to give you your time back.
No. Please, Ollie was done with me. We're done.
Okay. So, yeah.
Reclaiming my time.
Okay. I really enjoyed Shaheen, especially because I got to meet him in Atlanta, and we had a very fun chat. He wore my dad's jacket that I brought with me, and he looked great in it. You could see that on my Instagram. But Shaheen was very nice to me, very kind, and was very, very gracious with all of us who were visiting from Survivor Now podcast. One of my favorite facts about Shaheen's game was the fact that he played so hard when he was an alternate, and I think Rachel also comments on this, but he told us straight out, he said, I'm going to make people remember me so that they talk about me. And they did. All of those people that season, was it 46? Yeah. All of those players were like the guy with the beard. They got the fans invested of like, who is this guy with the beard? And then we saw him right away and we knew, so I think he made such a lasting impression. He knew exactly what he had to do to get onto the show. And then, during the show, I think he had hits and misses, but I do appreciate what he brought to the game. He was willing to put his life in the game on the line many times so that, like, okay, you don't have to put votes on my alliance, but you're going to put votes on me. And, maybe if that was for better or for worse, but it showed that he can stay cool, calm, and collected. And he was also a huge Survivor fan. And yes, Amy, he did this Survivor chant on the way out. I hope that's not the last one that we hear from him, because I mean, that's one of my favorite contributions to the season, was him doing those chants.
Imagine if his jury questioning is who can do the best Survivor chant. I'd love that.
What's the thing? I was going to mention that. I think he's going to be a really interesting jury member. I just feel like he's someone, like, he's got that intensity. He's got that like that like true curiosity about people's games. Like, I'm excited to see him on the jury.
Well, we don't have to wait long because we have our top 5.
Right.
Wait,
let's bring Ollie to the top.
No.
All right, Ollie, we have a lot to talk about.
You don't want to do your segment
online, and we are going to bounce right on over to your segment, whether you are ready or not. The tribe is posted.
Yay! So the tribe is posted. For anyone that does not know, I deep dive into all of the socials, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, TikTok, just to see what's happening. And I will admit, I did all of this yesterday, so my brain's trying to remember what I actually did. So this is where it's going to be interesting for me.
Watch is just going to be all Eurovision stuff.
It's all going to be no. The first thing is, this is Ollie's favorite. Vote for this person. You just saying you all can vote for your favorite of Eurovision. There is the rest of the world
Ollie,
voting.
keep going.
So the first thing is we've got Bianca and Thomas. I just loved it. I love it because the pre-jury have been Matthew. Shut up. The pre-jury have been really like they've been posting, and I really appreciate it. And then this was from Kyle. It was obviously final 6 into final 5. It was something to do with the Pacers, and I thought you lot would know more. I think Randy's a fan of the Pacers, so I don't know. But it was the only thing I'd seen of Kyle that week, so I was like, I'll include it. Next up, we have Mary. I love Mary. These are only 2 of the things she had posted. Obviously, the one on the right is talking about that she's got the CDL for our dear friend Camilla, so she can continue riding that bus and riding people, putting people under it. And then this one I just found hilarious. What Shaheen just did, Kevin could never.
Kevin, no, you're right. We didn't talk about that dive, but that dive that Shaheen did after that challenge was gorgeous.
Yeah, that was a gorgeous dive. Yes, it was very good. And then next up we have Mitch. Because there was a couple of things of Mitch. I really wanted to try and include Mitch. And it was Mitch getting into the final 5, and kind of even some of his friends and family had he had joined in their their posts.
Chat?
So their posts, because obviously you can now combine your posts on Instagram. So this was that.
Collaborate.
That's the one. So yeah, I was very happy to see Mitch here and have his moment. Then this was one from Say. I need to tell everyone this is not a photo. This is a video. They decided to voice over the moment where they took the clips of them kind of grinning and grimacing and going, ugh, and it is Say is doing her one. Say is doing her own reactions. It is so funny. I would recommend going to listen to it because it is just the funniest thing in the world. Yeah, it was. I had to just have this as a separate tweet itself because it was so funny.
Survivor production, hire Say as a sound editor.
Yeah, and then next season when we have this, just have Say.
Bill, it looked like you had something.
I just want to say hello to Zans in the chat there.
Zans, we shouted you out so many times this episode, so go back and rewatch.
Yes, we did. You got yes, you're in the lore. You're in the lore, Zans.
You are in the got something for you lore. Right, next up we have 2 tweets. One from David. I thought it was just quite funnily shady. If only someone had told Eva and Joe that Carl and Camilla were secretly working together. If only. And Shaheen, I enjoyed every second. I played Survivor. That was purely because I don't have enough things for this. And this was Shaheen thanking everyone. The first one was a reel, thanking everyone. He then did an Instagram story. And then also his little post at the end, I just thought was hilarious. Hang them in the Louvre. Because I swear I can't remember I think it was 46. There was another post, and I find it very ironic that he was the alternate for 46. And I do remember somewhere there was a post from 46 where someone said, hang it in the Louvre. So I just thought that little Easter egg was also funny. Just thought I'd do that connection. It is somewhere. It's in my memory bank somewhere. Now we go to the polls. Phil's favourite part. So for anyone that doesn't know, on X, we post polls. We normally post them on Thursday, and we have them running until kind of the end of just about a couple of hours before we do the stream. The first poll we have was, how would you have made your picks for reward? And I will actually say we had a lot of people vote on these, so thank you very much. We do appreciate all your votes. The most votes we've had so far. So picked players for letters, not fueling competitors, picked closest allies, or just picked random castaways. Phil, what would you have done?
Well, Mr. Ali, I think that I would probably have picked at this point in the game, genuinely, I probably would have picked my closest allies.
Fair. Matthew?
I would have picked my closest ally if I was not going to fuel them. So I'm going to go with not fueling competitors.
Yeah, that's probably where I would have gone. And I can reveal
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject for this episode in
Yeah.
particular, you know?
Yeah.
that 52% of people decided not to fuel their competitors. Going on to poll number 2, was Kyle and Camilla's story believable? Yes, it was perfect. Was worried but hopeful. I wasn't sure. Didn't believe it at all.
Matthew?
Worried but hopeful.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely worried a little bit. So I guess I should say worried but hopeful. But because, like, you know, at the end of it all, knowing that it worked out perfectly, I want to say that it was perfect. Because I feel like, as I've stated earlier in this episode, I think that this needed to be perfect to actually work out the way that it did. But in real time, I'd say I was worried but hopeful.
Okay, well, I can confirm that you're both in the majority, as 46.2% said they were worried but hopeful. This was a very mixed one. This is kind of our main one that was very mixed. Like, it was very close in terms of voting.
Didn't believe it at all. I'm confused
20%,
what
yeah.
mean by that, because we all knew it was a lie.
Yeah.
Oh, so I guess the way that Kyle pitched it, they're saying
they're saying the story wasn't believable in terms of
basically it's 20.5% of the people just think that no, it was not believable. They'd be a much better Survivor contestant, even though they'll always sit on the couch. And poll number 3, our final poll. Do you believe, or who do you believe gets the credit for Shaheen's blindside? Joe, Kyle, Camilla, Eva, or Mitch?
Oh, it's got to be Eva and Mitch, right?
Oh,
obviously. Phil, I went last time. You go first.
I mean, obviously, it's got to be Kyle or Camilla. The fact that Joe is on there is hilarious.
That's for everyone. I wanted to see. I was curious.
Yeah, it's got to be either Kyle or Camilla. I think it's both of theirs. I'm gonna say, wow, who gets credit? I think whoever gets to the end, but I do think that I'm gonna say Kyle is more obviously going to get credit because optically he was always seen as being more in the alliance. So it's like he decided to break it up here versus Camilla, which, it could be seen as just like, oh, she's just tacking herself to any plan that works. She's on the outside versus Kyle, like sort of had more maneuvering capabilities. What do you think, Matthew?
The episode very much gave the credit to Kyle, like without a doubt, because it even showed confessionals of Camilla saying, Kyle's so smart. I could have never have come up with this. This is, so like the episode really does give Kyle the credit. As for the jury and stuff like that, remember in the story, Kyle was saying, Camilla came to me and said this. Like Camilla said that Shaheen showed her the idol. So it's like a 50. We didn't really talk about that, but it's kind of it's a risk to do that with Camilla because you might either get Camilla into trouble or you might give Camilla credit for something. So I do think that I'm going to go with Kyle, but I just did want to touch on that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that because I do think Camilla does get some credit here in the sense of like Kyle, like you're right, Kyle unintentionally gave Camilla some credit here. But the poll has spoken. 79.6% said that Kyle gets the credit. But what was shocking to me was both Joe and Camilla got the same amount of 10.2. Like,
Camilla deserves more.
She does.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
The fact that Joe and Camilla have the same amount is like criminal.
Yeah. Because Joe didn't get that credit. I'm so sorry to the 10.2% that voted that way. He does not get that credit. I do apologize. I disagree. I respectfully disagree. But those were the polls. That was
Woo! Thank you, Ollie. Great as always.
Awesome job, Ollie. Thank you so much. All right, all. We made it. What is happening? I'm sorry. I need to see you all to say, Phil, jump in for me.
Okay, here we go. Thank you all for coming out and watching Got Something For You for episode 12. Matthew is back here. We were so happy to have you here. When you guys chat in our live chat, it feels like you are a fourth host. So always, please continue to fill up our chats. Okay, comment if you missed the live chat. If you're watching this after the fact, we love when you guys come to our show. Ollie, looks like you have something.
I've got one more question, and it's become tradition. Who is winning Survivor 48?
That's right. For a meal.
Which, by the way, even though I have a chance to be in contention, I'm still not competing in for one very good reason. I'm not buying you lot food on that day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're gonna be here.
I'm not.
I was gonna say. I feel like it's we're all gonna be together in person. I'm gonna call it right now. Actually, Ollie, I want you to answer first, please.
I don't know. I don't know.
Matthew, I want you to answer first, please.
Look at Zan's. Zan says, I don't know, but I was watching Stock Watch and they sold me going all in on Mitch.
Oh, please.
It could happen, Phil. It's Survivor. Anyway.
No.
Am I going first?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm putting my money on Kyle. I think that the edit I was so torn between him and Camilla. I think that the edit has favored him more slightly. And I think it's going to be Kyle this season as the winner.
I think it's going to be Kyle too.
Now we got to do the votes.
Yeah, now you got to do the votes then.
Ollie?
Ollie?
What do you think?
Well, I'm rooting mainly for Camilla. Do I think it's going to be Camilla? Probably
The
not.
question was not rooting for. The question is not
Yeah,
rooting for.
I know. But I'm also not competing. So, oh, screw it. I'm going to go with Camilla. I don't care.
Okay. Wait, should we do votes or should we do? Roy gave me this idea. Who goes out at fire?
Okay. Who goes out at fire then, Phil?
At fire, we see. I feel like Fire's. This is what I can say for sure. Fire's gonna be something dramatic with Joe and Eva. It's gotta be. And I don't feel like it's. Yeah, I feel like we see. Honestly, I was gonna say I'm with you, Zans. I am agreeing with Zans here. I think Joe goes out in fire. I don't think that we even see Joe in the finals.
All right, this is where we're going to differ. This might be the tiebreaker. I think Eva goes out at fire.
Oh, that's a good tiebreaker. Yeah, because we pick one of the two.
Okay. So this will determine it then which one of you has to get the other one food.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
Or Eva.
I like it.
Win at fire. Whoever loses at fire.
Who do you think, Ollie? Who do you think is going out at fire?
See, part of me thinks because I picked Camilla, I kind of have to say Kyle because I feel like. So here's my theory on it. Whichever duo gets to final four, I think is going in fire. Is competing in fire. Very obvious. So obviously, if it's Kyle and Camilla, I'm obviously thinking Kyle's going to lose. If it's Joe and Eva, part of me agrees with Matthew, but then also part of me agrees with Phil. I'm going to say Joe just because of what happened at the start of the fact that, like, he said he would give his game up for Eva, and part of me could see that.
Yep. We'll see.
But too late. I've written it down. Can't change it.
I know, but that's so good. Okay.
Matthew, would you like to sign off?
Let's sign off. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining all of us for our second to last episode of Got Something For You for Survivor 48. I know the tier is coming down. Listen, right around the corner, though, should be Survivor 49. But we also do have coverage for Australia versus the world if you're going to be tuning into that season. So with that, I just want to thank you all so much again for joining us. I know that we always say thank you, especially to those of you who participate in the live chat, but make sure you are here next Saturday for an extremely special episode of Got Something For You that if you've been following us, I'm sure you do not want to miss this one. All right,
You won't want to miss it.
thank you all so much, and we will see you next week to talk about the finale. Remember, don't miss it.